Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here and staying. Hope you're not too sleepy. We'll try and wake you up a little bit if you are. We'll try and make this a little bit of fun. Probably a little bit serious at the beginning to give you a rundown of the amazing story that is Gaggan, and then we'll get into some of the other more investment-y type topics that we're all here for as this conference. We don't have any slippers or CDs, sorry. Gaggan has some nice shoes. If you bid high enough, you might be able to pay for them. So just to sort of start at the beginning, I mean, Gaggan, I'll start for a second, literally came from abject poverty back in India, in Kolkata. And he was a truant at school, didn't really like education, didn't really want to go. He had, a fascinating experience with food at the beginning. His first taste, I think, as you told me, was a samosa behind a wall. He never saw the face of the guy that actually served it. He cried when he first cooked noodles because they didn't look like the picture on the package that he made. But his family had this vision to send him to a great education and to give him a future. And he genuinely believes that even if you come from poverty, you really can make it. As hard as that may seem, we have an amazing example of determination here. So if we just get into the story a little bit, and if you can take us through from that sort of education and what happened and your desire of why you suddenly said, right, I'm going to be the best chef.
I think, when you're born, it's all luck. You can be born in the richest family in the world, and you can be born in the most poorest family. Poverty is not a choice. It's a curse. You get it? But do you choose that? Your future is in your hands. And I remember, this again goes to Brazil. It's very similar to India. So when I went to Rio and they said, let's go to favelas, the slums. And they wanted to promote it as tourism. And I said, I don't want to see it as tourism because I have been there, I have lived there. And I think when you are at the most bottom line of the pyramid, of social pyramid, and when you're at that bottom line, you have everything to win and nothing to lose. You might, in this room, I can guarantee you, that we are so secured financially, but we all are tarnished. Somewhere in our engines, some tires are broken, are tarnished. And you go down there in India or in Bangladesh or in Thailand, where they don't even have clothes to wear, or in Africa, and they're happier than us. So happiness is a state of mind, and that was my motivation. And that's exactly when I went through all out, because I have no fear. And that's why I've lived my life till now, till today, till now, right now, is to choose what I love and what I want in my life. And not that what are the consequences or what will happen to it. Because I think being fearless is the biggest freedom we have in our life.
So when...
That's okay, sir. That's okay. Thank you. You clap in the end. Don't clap now, you clap in the end. Yeah. Keep the energy.
Or don't clap at all later. Because one of the things I remember we were discussing was, when you were at university, you got a letter from your parents that, and this is unbelievable, but literally your mother saying to you that they didn't have $4 to pay for electricity. And
that was my motivation. I mean, that was what I wanted. I wanted that I had the skill without having a background, but I have the skills of a hand, because if in this hand you get a knife and a salt, you can change the destiny of an ingredient. You can make a humble potato become the most expensive potato ever. And that is the art. When you look at art, this is a city of art. All the museums have all the famous artists. Do we ever calculate the cost of how much paint was used on the paper? We don't. We just know how much is sold for. And I think cooking is similar, and I anticipated food that way. And I like to be a Robin Hood because I like to take money from rich and give it to the poor. Charge them a lot and give it to my team. So that's why in my restaurant, the first time that I've done this restaurant on my own, everything invested by me, is because I want to share 15% of my profit every year, annual basis, as bonus to my team. And this is how I believe. I believe in people, and at least I can't change 500 people, but at least I can change 75 people's life. And I'm just a good leader. In that way, I think it's from this past that I learned that now, food, look at it. We are 8 billion plus people. And we are in an era where you don't even cook. You have microwave ovens, you have FIBO, and I never knew it. Probably my last meal here should be a FIBO. But you have Uber apps. You have, in my city, there are 7 apps, because Bangkok, cooking in home is more expensive than buying food from outside. So we live in an era where food and investment in food is the richest profitable game, yet very competitive. And what I thought was, in that, when I want to be the best, because if you're the best, you're always the number one. And when you're number one, you don't look behind to see who's number 2, 3, or 4. And that's important, because today, in Asia, right now, we have a crisis. We have this virus thing going on. Everybody's scared. Don't be scared, guys. I didn't carry any virus, but it's a scare. Restaurants are empty. Hong Kong is dying, where property rates are 30% of the cost. And Singapore is dying. Forget China itself. Japan is dying. And all the countries who depend on China. I saw a post from Rene in Noma, the number 1 restaurant in the world, posting, we have cancellations this week. Asians are not coming. So it's suffering. Every hotel here is not got any more Chinese guests. And at that point, because where I stand, I lost only 20% business. And that's exactly what is sustainability in restaurants. Because if you are the best in what you do, luxury, people who are rich, they will spend. I mean, whatever the global crunch of finance or whatever it is, if you serve good food and you give an experience that is unmatched for, people will come and spend. Food is super seductive. It's worse than sex. Yeah, sex 5 minutes and then you need a Viagra. Food, oh, fuck it. I mean, you keep eating, keep eating, keep eating. You don't stop. You eat, you shit, and then you eat again.
Those are technical terms, by the way, as a disclaimer, just for you, Jen. So, I mean, you know, for Gaggan, I mean, just to go back, and then we fast forwarded from where you were. You arrived in Bangkok with only $500 in your pocket. You did incredibly well with, you know, Red, which you were asked to open. And then from there, you had your drunken night, one of many in your life. Many more to come, I'm sure. And then got into your own restaurant, which was Gaggan, obviously. Very quickly went up in the rankings in Asia, and 15, 16, 17, 18, you were the number 1 chef in Asia. And obviously last year, you were number 4 in the world. I think the day before you had your fight.
I resigned a day before the award. So, yeah.
So, you know, from that, what we'd like to hear and have explained a little bit more is, how did you garner that? Because it was mentioned a little bit earlier, that loyalty from your team, that, you know, when you left and said, right, I'm done, they all came with you. A lot of people would like to understand that, because that doesn't happen that often. In what is it they see in you, or what is it in you as a leader, other than the fact that you're a crazy mofo, but we won't say the full word, in the way you do stuff. What is it that got them to come with you?
I think the 2 most important things in our life, every one of us need money. And second you need is love. Last 10 years, 2010 to 2019 December, let's say August, I was going for money. Because when you're born without it, you need it. But once you get it, then you go for love. And I always practiced what I preached, and empowering my people, my talent. Every restaurant that I've created is from people. Every chef in my restaurant is a former stagiaire, a former intern. I have 32 chefs. Out of 32, 31 of them were interns where I saw them as raw black stones. And how I could rub them into a diamond. And that is very important today, because the most important, anyone in whichever industry we are, the biggest challenge we have today is to retain talent. Because today the talents are really mofos. They are really, really mofos. At 23, 24, they give you a run for their money. And that talent, if you retain it, is not just your ring with a diamond, but that talent can amplify your energy. It's all about energy. Today in my restaurant, you don't feel and come and get my energy with my name. I am the bait. I'm the one which the fish is hanging to get the bigger fish. And once that bait is in my boat, my team will savage on you. They're like piranhas. And the energy that you will get in my restaurant, either 99% of you in this room will go home and saying, what the fuck happened? But 1% will say, why the fuck this happened? So it's about that. And that energy is what I have built in 10 years. And this cannot be artificial. It has to come from your heart, because you have to not ignore humans around you. The person who cleans the toilet is more important, because if the toilet stinks, the experience becomes stinky. The way we invested in the new restaurant is very interesting to talk about, because 35% of the money was directly spent on things that you touch and feel, nothing to do with decor. Most of us would like to give the best furniture, best this. I spent the money on the direct use of the customer. Why? Because we love in that social media. I thought that why tablecloths or table should be white, it should be black, because in photos, white food on white looks ugly. So I made them black. Minimalism is very important. And in that minimalistic approach, today I don't create. I just send a message to my team. I think we should do this and this. And then there are 15 ideas bouncing back. And that 15 ideas can create 15 restaurants. In my yearly staff party, you know what is the challenge? I divide everybody into 10 groups, and I tell them, each one of you is given a topic to create a restaurant. And out of the 10, 5 are super prosperistic ideas. Today I have another restaurant called Suring. They were 2 twin brothers, my friends. I motivated to open a restaurant, invested with them, gave them my branding, gave them my infrastructure, gave my know-how. Today, they are the ones who are competing with me. I opened a tofu restaurant. Everybody was opening Japanese restaurants and sushi and sashimis and ramen and teppanyakis where egg will end in your head and come back. And I opened a tofu restaurant. I'm not making money, but I'm not losing money, but I'm changing the way people look at food. I opened a steakhouse, and this is really funny because I opened a steakhouse with the first steakhouse where everything was cooked in meat and in fire, which is normal in Europe, but not in Asia. And we got steaks not frozen, but not aging them also, but just getting the fresh chilled steak and cooking them with heart. And that restaurant, I broke even in 5 months, and I minimum made the money 7 to 8 times. Until I started fighting with the same meat guys who were doing buffets right beside me. And then I killed the brand. I stopped the brand, and I'm creating another new brand in the same place. And that's very important. You have to understand where you go to the peak of it, and then you leave it at the peak, and then go to the next part. I mean, you have to climb mountains from beginning. And this is something my mom taught me. You cannot climb on the topest mountain in the world and then come back and then go up again. Then you cannot go from top to top. You have to come back and go up and come back. And that's why I've taken this challenge. I think now the restaurant that I do is about love, not about money.
So talking about that new one, and if we can roll some of the pictures of the food so the audience can see the imagery of some of the food, and then there'll be imagery of some of the actual new restaurant. So please go there so that his staff can actually get the 15% of the profit. But you know, from when you left, it was a sort of a bee in Gaggan's bonnet. Within 3 months, you had the new one open.
Actually, 2 months. 2 months we entered the restaurant, and we opened the restaurant in 9 days after entering, and that was the worst decision of my life. How can you open a restaurant and create a restaurant that every customer have to walk and tell me that I've been eating in your restaurant for 10 years, but this is better. And that's the challenge I took. It's suicidal. But I think that's the fun of being me. And I challenge you, if you want to open a restaurant in 2 months, contact me. I won't have a franchise fee. I don't want anything. I'll just tell you how to do it. And my style was, I incorporated 20 struggling artists. 20 struggling artists who had no job, no money, combined with my designer, Thai artist, who sell their art in some weekend markets, combined their art into my restaurant. So everything was assembled like the hospital they do in China. So,
So I mean, within the restaurant, what's very interesting is obviously you like to do all the crazy stuff. So if you guys are making a booking, you go onto the website, you're asked a whole bunch of questions that you have to answer to have any chance of getting a booking. You know, so why are you dining? You know, is it?
So the restaurant was divided into 2 parts. One, which is the chef table, and the other one was called the restaurant.
But the chef's table is the G spot.
Yeah, the chef table, we call it the G spot, which has nothing to do, but it's supposed to be. It depends how you take it. I call it G spot because you're in my Gaggan Anand spotlight, where we ask you a questionnaire, and we'll talk about the questionnaire. Because this was my future restaurant, but then I had to create a restaurant, a 40-seat, to support my 67, 70 people who are working with me. Because the one thing that I was making the biggest mistake was to close my restaurant this year, according to the plan, and move and do my selfish restaurant with 10 to 12 of us. But then I thought that would be the biggest mistake of leaving the weak behind. Weak needs stronger people. We all are born to be sheeps and lions, right? So if I leave the sheeps to be hunted by others, then I'm not a good lion. So I had to carry the whole weight to create another restaurant, bring the energy there, and that's called Arena G, where you have 40 seats, which is 10 seats per hour. That's it. We fill 10 seats per hour. And then the G spot starts at 7 o'clock and ends by 2 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. Depends how drunk we are. We go up and eating street food in the suppers areas.
Is that because they're hungry? They didn't eat enough?
No, I think they're fucked up. They're completely drunk. They are.
So you've got, you know, funky names of dishes like, you know, Viagra, Who Killed the Goat, Yogurt Explosion. I mean, you just...
Yeah, but in the new restaurant, we don't even have a menu. We kept it very analog. There's no menu because people come and I learned, we worked on our weaknesses. We didn't work on our strengths. All the criticisms we had, we changed that into our strength. So we didn't have a menu because we want people today. Today we live, and how many of us are right now on cell phones and not listening to me? So people are like that. Imagine in this conference, imagine in a restaurant, there's a honeymoon couple. They've just got married there, having a honeymoon time in my restaurant, booked a table for 4 months before, and for 4 fucking hours, they're on the fucking phone. On the phone. And don't listen to our story, doesn't listen to it. So I said, scrap it off. Every menu has to be a jigsaw puzzle, has to have an emoji. The food has to provocate them. Eat with hands, so they can't even touch the phone. It's dirty. Yeah, it's all how I thought. I was thinking opposite. I wanted people to be analog, not in the phone. Use their phone, make a food, plate it in the middle finger, and that became the best dish. There's no name. You just plate the thing and you have to give yourself a blowjob. I provocate. The mother and the daughter is sitting on the same table and showing each other the middle finger. It's amazing. It's a guy like a Swiss banker, 3 layers of jacket, Hermes everywhere, comes there, sits on the table, he's 61-year-old with his wife. Thankfully, they're holding hands and not on phone. And then after champagne, the second course, they get a dish, and they start, the music is lick it up by Kiss, and they start licking the plate. And the guy throws off his jacket, goes back to his leather clothes, and thinks he's 1980s. This is how I provocate people. I want people to go home with not a status that they ate at my restaurant, but a memory that they carry all their life and say, what the fuck happened?
See, they're in shock. I mean, it's fascinating how you've created this, because obviously you had a different agenda and a plan before. What happened wasn't in the plan. I think everyone here would love to hear what does the future hold for Gaggan. You have Gaggan Anand as your restaurant now. I know you're traveling. You've told me some of the things you're looking at.
Which we can't discuss.
What would you like to share with
Okay,
the crowd?
so I'm opening a new brand. It's called Mrs. Maria and Mr. Singh. It's two countries which are very similar in food. One is Mexico and one is India. Mexico is tortilla bread. India's got roti, not the fucking naan. They have mole, we have curry. They gave us tomatoes, we gave them cilantro. Their food and our food is all about chilies. Their drama, their soap operas are all similar to India. It's an emotional background is same. So I created this whole fiction where I started with Mr. Maria and Mrs. Singh met in a Bangkok airport. I'm right now currently doing the script. And they had a one-night stand in the airport because it was coronavirus. All the flights got cancelled. It's real. I'm telling you the real story. It's going to open in next 15 days. And we created a thing. They had a one-night stand.
That's after the 14th day to make sure they don't have the virus.
14 days virus. And then they had a one-night stand. Then she went back to Mexico. Then they fell in love. He went back to Mexico and blah, 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 blah. And then this whole thing has become a fun concept where I'm giving my Gaggan staples. Because I have this biggest problem today is that everybody says your food is unapproachable and expensive and 5 hours. It's my own criticism. So I said, fuck it. I'll do a restaurant where I'll do every dish a la carte, tastes like Gaggan, smells like Gaggan, but it's a cheaper version and more marketable and more mass. And that meal, I want to make it within $30 to $40. So $50 or 50 euros with wine and everything and completely natural. And that I want to print in all over the world because I want to make sure that everybody enjoys my food without being me, without in my restaurant, and not compete with local Indian curry houses. So that's why my first restaurant attempt is to be in London. No, not in London, in LA. Okay. I want to do in Paris. I want to go where food is more important than the cuisine. And that's why I'm looking at these destinations, which are my weakest zones. When I came to Bangkok, who the hell ate Indian food? Indian food, which I read in the first review, was for tailoring shops eating their lunches. And that is what it is. And that provoked me. So I want to do in LA, I want to do in Paris, I want to do in cities that have no connection to Indian food. And there you do this Indian, Mexican, sexology, Tinder dating app. Yeah, so I don't know.
So franchise applications are available.
Yeah, I first let me make money. Yeah, but first let me launch the product because the product is, again, I've hired an Indian chef, and 10 of us in our restaurant, like you said, branding. 10 of us in our restaurants are growing this Freddie Mercury shit. Like, yeah, we're going to have a dental also thing done, and so we are going to do this mustache gang in our. This is how we brand. People take photos of us. You take a normal photo with a guy like this, they don't care. When you take a photo like this, he also takes out a middle finger. Everybody wants to show the middle finger. Show me your size.
Well, on your website, I mean, that's what you pride yourself. You ask, Ed Sheeran's got a quote, so he can't say anything bad about you, but about your food. But yeah, you really are a see you.
Yeah, I use all the
Tuesday.
famous people in the world, from Ed Sheeran to Hollywood to people who I know, famous Foo Fighters, everybody, all the rock bands that I know. And I sold that. Give bad things. They all say, you motherfucker, your food is sucking. This guy's a genuine asshole. That's my website. Famous people giving me abusive language. This is what it is. Welcome to shit.
But if you do want to go and eat there, you have to fill in these forms online. Is, you know, are you there for a divorce celebration, an anniversary? Leave me alone. I just want to eat.
Or divorce.
Yeah.
We celebrate divorce.
All right.
It's the best thing ever. Fucking living in a toxic language, in a toxic way, or come and enjoy a divorce. And what do you get? If you're a woman, you get a dick to break. And if you're a man, you get two big, titties there to break. It's provocative. That's how you. Everybody wants to give a cake and, Hard Rock Cafe, but songs and things like that. But we. Opposite, divorce is more important.
The second part of the application is actually pretty interesting too, where there's a whole bunch of questions you're being asked, you know, and they will use that information, embarrassing moments, other things, throughout the 5-hour experience to make it a lot more fun.
Yeah,
with a disclaimer that
your
you need to
favorite
tip.
sexual position, your favorite rock band. If you like Justin fucking Bieber, go home. Don't come to my restaurant. Yeah, I'm sorry for you. Yeah, it's provocative. We make people uncomfortable because we make them. It's not. It's my talent, of course, with my team, who know how to create a TED Talk, interactive session, to create food and beyond. Food is no more just something to you eat, it's beyond. Food is the most sensual thing. Food can make you more wet than anything else in your mouth.
It's an oral orgasm, right?
Yeah, you call it food porn. I call it G-spot.
See, when I realized Gaggan actually knew what he was talking about with food, is he came to one of my restaurants in Dubai a few years ago, Japanese, called Oku, and we talked about it, and he said, well, you know what, you're not really traditional Japanese, but what you are is Californian Japanese. And at that point, I understood that he actually did know something about food. Not much, but something. So, thank you for this.